In my last video, I got a chance to talk about Lost, which I will never pass up because that is my favorite show of all time. But The Bear is very quickly becoming my favorite show of the 2020s. And if you didn't know, the show just came back hard with the highest watched scripted premiere of all time on Hulu as the show enters its third season. And while it hasn't quite lived up to the same level of season 2, which, let's be honest, is just TV at its finest, I have still enjoyed it. But with that said, I don't want to talk about the entirety of season 3 today. Instead, I want to talk about just one episode, in fact, that season premiere, which could end up having a massive impact on the type of TV we watch going forward. But before we get into all that, if you want to watch more videos about storytelling in books, film, and TV, then please hit that subscribe button while you're here. So, the season 3 premiere of The Bear, also known as Tomorrow. Now, I will admit, this episode has been quite divisive for how different it is from the show's usual format. Instead, it's more of a montage, and a 36-minute montage at that, with very little actual dialogue in it. But unlike a traditional montage, there's no immediate sense of progression of time as it jumps around between Kami's foray into the world of professional cooking, his brother's funeral, and also the time that he spent cooking at one of the world's best restaurants. All of it is set to this looping piano track, and largely because of the fast-paced editing that goes along with it, makes the whole episode feel like you're watching some kind of fever dream interpretation of The Bear. And certainly if you try to jump into the show from this point, it gives you absolutely no clue as to what's going on. But I love it. It's the type of visual storytelling that's almost exclusively found in cinema, and very rarely, if ever, does it make its way across to TV. A recent example would be the film Challengers, which uses very intentional shots and a thumping soundtrack to convey emotions without the need for dialogue. Going back further, one of my favorite films of all time and a true underrated indie gem is A Ghost Story, which indulges in some very abstract storytelling to convey what an afterlife might look like. At times, there's tons of dialogue, but in other scenes, there's barely a word said. It's one of the reasons why I still love going to the cinema, because film directors are unencumbered in the way that they can tell stories in very unique ways, which unfortunately, if you're beholden to a larger narrative, you just can't really get away with. But that's exactly why TV has shied away from this type of storytelling, and why this episode just caught me completely off guard. And yet, despite being very different to almost every episode that came before it, it still does a fantastic job of amping up the characterization of the show. At the end of season 2, viewers saw Kami come to terms with the fact that by opening himself up to a committed relationship, he had taken his eye off the ball where his restaurant was concerned. And given just how well he and Claire worked as a couple, you kind of wanted Kami to find this middle ground where he could still be passionate about the work that he did day to day, but still have enough capacity to open himself up to love. But this episode gives you more of an idea of what was going through his head during the time that he was stuck in the fridge during the season 2 finale. The amount of time that went into learning his craft, the late nights and utter exhaustion, and that's before getting to the painstaking work required to operate at a Michelin star level. With all that in mind, it's no wonder that he was so frustrated, and this episode does a fantastic job of conveying all that. And so I hope that other shows are taking note here, because I would love to see more showrunners just take a chance on this type of storytelling. But did you enjoy the episode as much as I did, or do you think it was just a complete disaster? However you feel, let me know in the comments below. But above all, thank you for watching.